Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. Recently, I feel I've been getting a pointer to speak about this topic. It is a topic that it took me a while to understand the title. But when I did, something interesting happened and I want to share what that was. I've written a sentence here: we are nice to others, but are we nice to ourselves? I feel because we have our sight starting from our face in the first person view, we see others before we see ourselves. That means it's highly probable before we saw ourselves in the mirror, we were seeing others. Other phenomena moving was way more clear to us than us moving. And I'm wondering really that the human being in the outer realms is a social entity. In the inner realms, to be a social entity is a choice. A lot of things are choices in this world. A lot of karma doesn't happen. A lot of things don't activate in life, especially until the person makes a decision. I stumbled through this mindset when I was younger where I cared for the pleasantness of the moment more than myself. It was as if before a sense of self was real to me, a sort of energetic relationship as the moment in the world was real. I feel all children are aware. They're aware of the world first before the self. And so really our first self is the world movement. You know what it is? It's like being someone who, this is how I felt years ago, a while back. There was this feeling of like sacrificing oneself for the world which they are trying to be a self in. You know, the concept of self-sacrifice, it is deep. I mean, it's happening on so many levels. You know, back in the day, the Aztecs and the Mayans, they would have sacrificial rituals. They would, I don't know, bring out a person's heart and something intense of that nature. And some people there, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was, I heard this from Jordan Peterson or Terence McKenna. But it was this idea how early peoples, they in some sense couldn't discriminate between what thoughts were. So can you imagine like not knowing? Right now, at least we call it thought, even though it is not, there's no such thing as a thought. But it took us a while to separate our inner realm with the outer realm. For the longest time, they weren't separated. That means imagine in the Aztec Mayan times, there was this view like the human beings were starting to have language echo due to tribalism. They started hearing more and more language, therefore they would have memory develop. So imagine somebody said hi to you and you went like I don't know, so let's say somebody in the morning says hello like this, like exactly like this. They say hello, and so you're walking, let's say in the forest, there's no people, there's nothing, right? And a bird makes a noise, and for some reason your mind is like, did this bird just say hello? As if the action echoes. Honestly, like my days as a human being, they're really set based on how I conduct the moment. That means it's like how I program my first moments throughout the day will suggest really how I feel about the whole day. In this world, something they don't tell you is that you need two types of eyes. You need eyes that can walk with the crowd, and you need eyes that can walk alone. And the eyes that walk alone, the Buddha said, we're born alone, we die alone. Everything else is a privilege, is a luxury. It's that means if you're someone right now, you have friends, family, whatnot. This is from the Buddhic standpoint, it's as if you did some things right, as an energetic phenomenon. I have been acquainted with that self, the eyes that are alone from the beginning till the end, they're alone. This is your true presence. And when I say alone, that means if everything was oneness right now, if everything was one being, that would be lonely. In certain schools of thought, they have this view that, at least I know this from a Sufi from the Sufi tradition, authenticated hadith, that it was this idea that God was unknown to itself, and it wanted to be known to itself, so it created the universe. It created phenomena like everything. And of course, this is back in the day. I mean, when I say God, we got to realize that's like what's his name? Voltaire said something incredible. Even if we didn't have the concept of God, it would be necessary to create it. Why? Because eventually human beings would be like, where did human beings come from? People. Wait a minute. Where did the universe come from? Could it have come from a person? You see, eventually personality, a universal personification would be attempted. Right now, even, let's say, militant atheism got rid of all senses of transcendental notions in the past. You see, that's why the thing, because for me personally, my experiential truth is beyond language, and so religion is, I don't see religion in the same way as most religious people do. For them, it's a behavioral algorithm. For me, it's a pointer. For me, religion is like a text message. You receive the message. The point is not reading the message endlessly, worshiping the message. Get the message and move on. So eventually the personification of the universe would happen if militant atheism bulldozed over all multidimensional paradigms that are arbitrary. In a world this vast and this unknown, declarations of fixed realms is a very bold move. Not bold in a good way, even. Bold is a daring move. Because if people really looked at what ideology is a photo. All ideological systems are photographs. All the children in the educational system, they don't realize it. I didn't even realize this when I was in the educational system. I thought I was there to learn something. How stupid, and I'm not, I mean, of course, I'm being a bit harsh from this angle, but let me tell you what I mean. The educational system is filling up people with problems not of their era. That's the tragedy of teaching someone something from the past. Like how many people in modern times, they've just been introduced to the idea of yoga in a prejudiced way, let's say. And so they have told, like, I know I can literally name, like I can even count with all with my fingers, like that many people I have seen in this life who they it's like a story, a cultural deviation became another cultural program for them, right? Because I thought about it, it's like a person, if they want to cherry pick truth, then truth is self-created, right? This is the danger. This is why I feel pretty much, see, in history, we've had three types of human beings having conflicts with one another. The religious lens, let us say, the spiritual lens, and the, let us say, secular scientific lens. The scientific method is so powerful that alone it is a philosophy. People don't realize this, but for scientists, their philosophy is literally a endless method. So the method is like the god of the update of what the world is going to become. And there's many methods, of course. Every methodology is an approach. Then we go into trying to wonder what is pathological, what isn't, what is just driven by the inner realms. For a long time, I was even looking at what does pathology mean, right? And it means you're oblivious of other worlds. That means, how hilarious is it? A person can feel like they're communicating to interdimensional beings, but they are not aware of their own dimension. Right? So it's as if, like, before we started, all those people who are interested in like extraterrestrials in the New Age community, it's like, before figuring out what the extraterrestrial is, let's figure out what the terrestrial is. Right? We have made the human story secondary, and it is by building an advanced civilization that this will come into the driver's seat. Right? I have no clue how we have made it this far. It has to be some sort of hidden love in the work, some hidden divinity in the work, some unknown moving force, because we don't have a legit global collective story. We are like the same as back in the day, where different tribes were fighting one another, but now these tribes have become bigger, sophisticated, and more have greater explanatory power in their dimensions. The religious mentality, I would say, worships the mind. That means, this may be a bit insensitive of me to say, but I feel I have personally seen artificial religious behavior, and from a different part of the world than Western culture. And because I have seen that, I can tell you that religion is just a suit. All language, all words, me sitting here and saying advanced communicator, advanced civilization, these are suits. It's like I am embodying an animate probability in my inner realms. Let's say that the religious mentality doesn't believe they're here. That means the most hilarious thing about being religious is that there's no one being religious. It's as if what is moving the realm is God's creation. That means human being, like the religious mentality, has managed to see everything as part of God's will except the human being, except free will. Free will is what we are. Free will is the only thing that we haven't realized, in some sense, is universal intelligence, but we have made it so specific to our emergence that we cannot fathom it as universal. That means, how can I be a universal being if I'm saying I am an individual planet-based being? That means it becomes impossible. It's like somebody saying, I'm not hungry, but then wanting to eat lots of food. It's as if, like, they'll attempt to eat the food, but they can't eat it. you know. People don't realize how much of the body, let me tell you, this is something really cool. Your body is staying a certain way to itself. Your mind is staying a certain way to itself. Then your mind is holding the body to itself in a certain way, and your body, it doesn't necessarily hold the mind, the witness holds the mind. That means, let's say we have someone, like I remember seeing in this this Sufi choir, not choir, the Sufi band ensemble on stage, and it were like 5 people playing different instruments, and there was one guy who was this drummer, right? And in the middle of this, all the people all the other people playing it was one of the coolest things to see. In like a life of musicians, it was like all the other musicians stopped playing their instrument, and this guy had gone into a trance. Literally, his eyes was closed, as if he was in his own realm. He had found a unique event in his inner realms, and he had teleported there, it seemed. And so his eyes were closed. He was playing drums. His hands were moving with the trust that you could instantly know it wasn't from a human personality. That means the way the being was communicating, it surpassed their memory. And that person went into a trance. All the others stopped. All the other musicians stopped. And it's like right now the free will is in a trance. It's as if free will is in the main position. It's as if, oh, what about me? I mean, pretty much all of life is, what do I do? Do you see? It's like we have to care for ourselves. Like we have to have egos to be able to even survive as biological beings. In that moment, I felt that person had understood what it means to be an ally of your mind, to serve the allegiance of your mind. Most likely that person who could go into instantly that, they call it trance state, but let's remember trance is good music for now. But in that state, it's as if the invisible collective other within all intelligent spaces, known as the logos, it meets the person. People don't realize it, but the logos has, how is it? I feel if people look back at their memories, they will find moments where thoughts arose to them without any reason. That is the logos. The right thought, the right action. Imagine there was a checklist. There was a checklist of dimensions of being, and human beings entered this planet, and they're like, oh my God, let me see if I can check mark. Like, people will not be looking for objects, they will be looking for experiences. The more we are realizing ourselves as a mind moving a body, rather than just a body, a meaningless body moving a mind. You know, it's too soon for the idea of free will to die in secular society. I want to share certain moments I served my own mind, and then how my mind became an ally, and what that is experientially in regards to the karma of the outer realms and the inner realms. So first thing, the way I feel I noticed my inner realms is that there was a pressure, there was a building up pressure in my life up to the year of up to 2011. That pressure made me learn how my attempts at being myself up to that point were still not myself. The moment I noticed I have lived all these years not knowing, and I still don't know who is looking through my eyes. Who? Or is it a who? Or what is it? Is it even a concept? Is it conceivable? Is it in this dimension? Is it beyond this dimension? Do you know? Is it void? Is it a mirage? Could our psychologies right now, if we completely entertain a materialistic framework right now, are like the talk I'm giving, all of our psychologies are mirages in the void. So our consciousness has to be a retaliation, a response. That means it's like for the first time, a unique event is taking place on Earth. It is not a battle between human beings. It is a battle between the dimensions of human beings. That means if people are violent in the future, what's going to happen is most likely they're going to get scolded by minds. So the more violence there is, the more stronger senses of self enter the realm. Do you know? That means the more, think of it this way. If people behave chaotically, there will be stronger beings in the realm, stronger entities emerging in the realm. If people behave in an ordered way, they go towards gentleness, and they kind of get the hint when the Dalai Lama is saying compassion. Love not your enemy, love your moment, love your world, and you've automatically loved everything in it. You know, this is like the easiest way to purify one's karma. They stop the resistance they have to the context of their own concept. After 2011, when I noticed the great unknown, my first experience with the great unknown, then I became super preferenceless. It's like realizing you're a fool. I don't know if people have experienced this. Probably people have, and if they haven't, I don't know what kind of childhood you've lived if you weren't a fool in your childhood, you know. But when a person realizes they don't know anything about how they're being a thing, you become preferenceless, and you, believe it or not, your ego gives up not on the world, on itself. The ego gives up on itself, and that's how there's an incredible levels of shyness on the planet. That means people don't realize that this introversion, extroversion is a distraction. Though that idea is a disguise. What is actually happening is freedom of self-expression based on authorization of the outer realms. That means some people, they need permission. Seriously, they need permission. Their permission can't come from themselves. You know, this is why the concept of the guru was there. The guru was like the great mayor. It's like, you know. And what's hilarious is every person that went to the guru, what they got out of the guru was their own mind. That means this is why they said the guru is within. Why? Because everything you see is taking place as an inner activity. That means literally science has also realized consciousness comes from within. That means that's at least one thing the mystics and the scientists have in common. They both acknowledge that our consciousness is an inner activity. But the mystics consider it inside the dimensional body. I would say the scientific community entertains it inside the biological body. That means the mystic is seeing the whole universe as its body and is wondering about the universal consciousness, but those engaged in, I don't know, I mean, people, they put the amount of food they can eat on their plate. Sometimes it's like, you know, in the void, what truth are we fighting over? It's just behavior. That means for me, it's strange, but if truth is just based on objects, that's literally it's idol worship. That means it's like fear is idol worship. Oh my God, fear is idol worship. Why is fear idol worship? Because your attention is on the destiny of a body. How many people right now, as I'm speaking, how many people have wondered if their mind is non-linear? What if your mind is happening in ways that every system of uh, ideological extraction from the void that we have developed so far can't respond to it? You see, that's one thing. I was like, a reason where I became an ally to my own intelligence. When I was, again, I'm going back to this point, in my youth, I wasn't my own ally. I felt I didn't deserve to exist to myself, not in a tragic, sad way, just in a way where it's as if, like, okay, there's a force field, my efforts are not leading there. Right, so it was as if I was driving. I was the like a me, but I was driving the wrong state of mind. So that karmic quarantine was kind of like me, and it's like, think of it this way. Think of it: every human being born on this planet, they will not just go and interact with an environment, a physical environment, and objects. They will interact with subjects. That means, just like how we say, oh my god, that person was destined to climb Mount Everest, the moment he climbed it, so just like how we put destiny on how our relationship, there's a relationship of our perception with objects. Now there's a relationship of our perception with how we are being a subject to ourselves, and that is the most important thing. Right, so if a person can cross that bridge, then the only thing left of becoming an ally of your mind is two phases. First phase, this part's going to be very hard for people who want truth instantly. Those people who want truth to be instant want it to be instant. The first part is, first of all, enlightenment is not for a mind. Enlightenment is poetically beyond the mind. Imagine your mind is a cocoon, your body is the caterpillar, and right now as you're incarnate, it's as if like the caterpillar is in the cocoon, right? And at the end of how we have piloted in the realm and we exit, what steps out? So what that means is the person not only has to enjoy their life, not only you have to become the greatest friend to your moment. Okay, that means being a friend to the moment is completely different than just being friendly selectively, right? Being a friend to the moment is acceptance that nature knows what it's doing. That means without trust, nobody can be friendly. The moment you distrust, your shadow steps out of you. Your shadow self starts animating your behavior, because just one single action of insincerity can just bring in your shadow self, which means you start wanting from time, not realizing you're creating it. So, the karmic quarantine, 2011, I realized there was an unknown. Upon realizing that unknown, I became super preferenceless. For the first time, I was asking questions, not the questions that were smart, not questions that the teachers of the realm wanted. I was asking the questions of my own eyes. There is no greater liberating feeling when you finally find your own eyes, and automatically you accept yourself. When you find your true nature, you can't even resist it. Instantly, it's like a remembrance, right? So imagine imagine this is kind of multidimensional, an explanation for a transmigratory soul. Imagine you're in a room and the light is on. Okay, you're in a room and you see everything in the room. You're like, wow, look at this room, I see everything. And you have been in this room and the light has been on endlessly. That means we feel we have to get knowledge. We don't realize knowledge has been in the room before us. If it's animate, if it's living, if we're wondering about not knowledge for a robot, knowledge for a living human being that has unknown variables in how the psychology responds to the environment, and also as it takes in the environment becomes and we extract individualism out of our experiences. It's like time is sculpting us, is sculpting the unknown into eternal realization. Time is sculpting the unknown into intelligence. Unconditional intelligence. Do you know what that means? This word is so supreme, unconditional intelligence. It means intelligence that can't be changed. There was this anime, this Japanese anime, where in it there was a character. This character was born, and there was a scene where the parents are about to name this character. It's a fictional story, of course. And the parents are like, "Oh, look at our child. What should we name it?" You know, and then the child speaks as if with a full developed voice, and it says, "My name is this and this and this," and it's like a magical context, the whole show. You know, it's like pretty arbitrary context, but the idea was that this person was aware the light of the room, had a memory of the light in the room being on before it was turned off. That means if physical birth is opening our eyes in a dark room, prior to that, imagine that there wasn't a dark room. That means every living being knows where they are. They don't consciously though. In the chat section, Kushbu says, "I realize I am a fool in a very hard way, and it made me strong. The pressure made some part of me diamond-like." Yeah. That's why I'm saying it's like when the person, think of it this way, if you were on a battlefield and there was literally an army running at you, you wouldn't think about getting tired anymore. You'd at that point be like, okay, too many endless moments. It's like, how many of these moments does the person want to define? That means it's like we don't realize it. We are unknown attention traveling in the space-time continuum as if we are never inside it. It could be that what is a simulation to, for example, the two-dimensional is a reality for the third-dimensional. Imagine. And imagine what is a simulation for the third dimensional is a truth for the fourth dimensional. What that means is, like, we know that when we look at an ant, we're like a way more complex, intelligent being that the ant can't fathom. Now imagine, could we be the ant, and could there be intelligence in the universe that is looking at us that can't even fathom? Can you imagine ants? Imagine ants suddenly became conscious, and they did see a human being, but they could not fathom it. They couldn't tell apart the human being from the landscape. That means this ancient idea of there's gods in the walls is now changing to there's gods in dark matter and dark energy. There's gods in the unobservable universe, or in the walls of the observable universe. Right? That means we think the edge of the universe is an object. The edge of the universe, it even surpasses subjects, its attention. The secret of this realm is discover the nature of your attention. I would say this world is not, some schools of thought say it's an educational planet, and we're like, great. And then they say it's, a prison planet, a sort of in a circumstance that natural forces are endlessly trying to conquer, how our free will is choosing to stand in the room. But I will tell you, it is an airport. It is not, and it will become an airport. Like how I've seen this too many times in my inner realms. It's an airport where all pilots, we are piloting as space. That means how matter moves in space. There's two explanations. The matter is moving itself in the space, Or if the matter is not moving itself, something else in the space is moving it, either space itself, the inconceivable one and only space, or it is an hidden forces. That means I feel science, the scientific method, I feel astrophysicists are going to realize that whatever scientific finding, we are telling the story of humans on this earth. That means when we realize life is meaningful as a subject, but it exists as an object, that means we experience the moment as a, this is a ridiculous way of saying it, but as a unit, as a subjective unit. Okay, you know, that means it's like if I share like 3 ideas, those are 3 subjective units, imagine, you know. So it's like you see, it's like right now, who's speaking to you? Am I an object speaking to you, or am I a subject speaking to you? Let me see how many people are watching. 6 people. Okay, people can respond. This is a question: is the listener, is the speaker of this talk an object or a subject? What is speaking to you? Is an object speaking to you? Is a subject speaking to you? Or does it seem there is what's the term? There are eyes to our eyes. There we go. And so that thing about the allegiance of the mind, now I could say it way more easily. Phase 1, you must serve before you command. Phase 2, the mind is a lousy master but a great servant. So what that means is you serve an intelligence that you don't know, you familiarize yourself with that intelligence, and then so that means, let's say serving the mind is kind of like trusting moments of creation. Believe it or not, I don't know how else to say it. You know, after 2011, I will tell you, I became the simplest person I know. Literally, there was nothing in the inner realms archetypally to do. That means I was like, okay, all you can eat buffet of senses of selfhood, you know, and I don't know who's even looking from the within, you know, within my eyes, right? So that led me to a selflessness, and that selflessness, I feel, made me planetary. And then I remember it was like I was raking in the yard, and suddenly lines of poetry. Then I had a moment where I sat down, and in my exhalations I would notice a stream, a river of thought that was quicker than my own thinking. And I'm telling you, you start living life by trusting your presence as a moment of being, rather than the endless ways you can connect the dots of what's in your moment. I am saying, in the outer realms, energy is talking to you. In the inner realms, the unknown is watching. It's not even speaking, it's watching. That means only contained mind, conditional minds need communication. Unconditional minds, their communication is instant, because their presence is the room. So imagine you suddenly realize the whole universe is being your mind right now. Not exactly, but your mind, like, let me say what I mean, like the mind is, it's like, it's very complex to say. It's like what we're looking at, is it what we're looking at or is it not, right? That's the whole challenge of a struggle where both analytical philosophers and continental philosophers have been fighting that same opponent. You see, there are mysteries that can unite everyone. Mysteries, things that we don't know. The collective unconscious can lead to world peace if we honor it. If people start honoring the potential of their world, then you will see purpose automatically comes. If you don't see potential, you can't see purpose. That means if I didn't see in my inner realms myself having an ability to come and give this talk, I wouldn't be giving it. So the potential is life. That's the mind's life. The mind is creating potential, and when your body lives up to the potential of your mind, that's what we call purpose. So it's a synchronization of your mind's life and your body's life. Now, the mind is very complex. The mind is actually, people have tried pinpointing it as a location. I'm trying to approach that. I'm trying to solve that problem somehow. But I'll say people now can see the mind as a higher dimensional activity, because it is. I mean, who are we kidding? You know, it's like the atoms are moved themselves to a point where they no longer needed to move themselves. It was as if like all this, the genes evolved to a point where they could forget that they were genes. You know. So Darwinian evolution, due to the way culture has developed, doesn't explain the full picture, and there is another type of evolution, the subjective evolution, I've termed it, that has taken place, and we have been ignorant of this, and this is why people are finding their minds for the first time, not realizing you should have known this from the beginning. You know, that's how we know civilization is not advanced, because it doesn't care for its own potential that is right in front of it. Right, and I'm not saying this in a scolding manner, but in just the thing that it's like, if there were 8 billion candles on this planet, just walking candles, what could these candles do? Only share your light while you're alive, because the light will go out someday. As Rumi says, before death takes away all that is given, give away all there is to give. And as life says, excuse me, what's that? You know, that means we tried to make life understand death, but it was impossible. Life only could see life. Death was never in the room. You see, it's absence and fullness. People are seeking fulfillment in their lives. And I feel it's a very incredible moment. I feel everyone should do this. I want everybody to tap with their right hand the back of their left shoulder. Right at the back of your left shoulder, just tap it gently twice. Okay, and when you've done that, let me know in the chat section. I'll pause the talk. Okay, and too much to expect from cyberspace and its pioneering phases, I guess. Let me tell you, let me tell you what you just did. You patted yourself on the back. Okay. When a person becomes their own friend, they start enjoying their mind. When you start caring for your life force, it activates. And life is, in some sense, finding allegiance with all the forces going the same way. That means if we truly build an advanced civilizations, if the advanced communicators get to work, life will be streams becoming rivers and rivers becoming oceans. That means I predict that by the year 2500, the concept of a future will not exist, maybe, to people in culture. A person can be an incredible friend to everyone. I mean, to like their family, their species, but on some level, it's like if 8 billion creatures wanted to be street smart, universally street smart, they would realize theoretically world peace can happen if everybody changes their mind on one idea, and we all have access to that idea. That means we are all easily living on the planet. Why? Because we accept the planet is here. And visible phenomena, it's easy to accept, but phenomena that is not visible yet has an influence on our mind, you know? Because, I don't know, but a part of me deep down feels from the beginning I have been unknown, and in the end I will be unknown, and it's only in the middle that you can know life. And when you know it, you realize that it's living. That means we don't realize the planet is living a life. We don't realize the solar system is living a life. We don't realize galaxies have a life. Can you imagine, if an incredibly, Mahatma shouted at a galaxy, get a life, you galaxy. And endless species began being born in that galaxy, imagine on different planets, just because somebody shouted, get a life. The human game shouldn't be too easy, shouldn't be too hopeless and inefficient. It's a balance of we have enough chaos and enough order, like the proper salt and pepper on the meal. And chaos, there is no destiny to chaos. Chaos is chaos. Chaos can't go anywhere. It is only order that can move. The best thing we can do is try to find out as much as we can from this universally sensory simulated landscape. Now, what happens in regards to identity? So let's say, because I can't ignore, there's a huge theosophical dimension that I don't care too much for, that's why I don't share it. But in my inner realms, there has been archetypes, not faces. I haven't seen a face, I would say. Like, I haven't gotten myself attached, because if you see something, let's say you're a square and you get a glimpse of a cube, you can't live as a square anymore. That means the moment you access the cubic life, just one fragment of a moment, you realize there's a cube here. It's the square is actually a cube, one of the 6 dimensions of the cube. Imagine we are 1/6 of our soul right now. And by soul I mean I should have said this earlier, but the soul, I've seen it in the geometrical realms. That means if a geometrical entity arose, and this geometrical entity somehow communicated what is the soul, and I had to speak to a geometrical entity through a geometrical language, I would just project the cube. What it means is the planet is a sphere, but the mind field under unknown jurisdiction, but attributeless, so attributeless it can't be connected to an agent. That means you move, like after some point in metaphysics, change is no longer change, and you return to the silence of the breath and its meaninglessness. What that means is, for me, sometimes giving these talks, I get a silly feeling, because reality is so simply being here. But why creatures have been presented with voice boxes, why we are in this game of manifestation, it's like there's something to do here, but we have to do it collectively in a way where, like, here's the strategy. If people can't get rid of their egos, imagine that's like, some people are like, look at this planet, too many egos, too much chaos, too many people wanting to do their own thing. Now, one solution is like how some people who misunderstand yoga, they go and shout, the ego is your enemy, get rid of the ego, attack the ego, destroy the ego. It's like, calm down. You can't destroy something that is not physical. You can forget it, but it doesn't mean you can destroy it. You can dismiss it. You can, like, there I would say in you can say in mystical circles of thought, a sort of CD, a sort of power beings can have is to pull, as if, imagine there's the person is two-dimensional, the world is three-dimensional, and there's imagine we have a society of two-dimensional beings, three-dimensional beings, and four-dimensional beings. And now imagine, like, the four-dimensional being able for the two-dimensional being to pull from the three dimensions anything. That means a four-dimensional being and a two-dimensional being, a two-dimensional being asked for a gift from a fourth-dimensional being. And the fourth-dimensional being realized the two-dimensional being can't comprehend the fourth, so it will never see its God. So it, in some sense, the force came from 3D events changing. That means when your body changes, that's how we learn from human life. When your mind changes, that's how we learn from beyond human life. That means what witnessing an object and subject are not the same. Philosophers understood this. There's a term called qualia. Let me read for you the exact. There's a very nice description for it. I remember reading somewhere. Check this out. Qualia. In philosophy and certain models of psychology, qualia in singular form. Qualia are quail in the singular form. So in philosophy and certain models of psychology, qualia are defined as individual instances of subjective conscious experience. And what is that? That's a memory in the making. That means the word memory is going to get outdated, and what is actually going on here is going to make us not laugh at our ancestors, but with them. Because no person can go on having a stability in the cultural program if you dishonor your origin for the sake of a glorious end. It's like it's not possible, Sometimes I could say that sometimes words arise to me, let's say a concept and an unpleasant concept comes, and I sometimes ask myself, does this idea need to be here? Do my eyes deserve that view on themselves, of themselves, for example? I mean, I don't think it like that, but I'm saying a lot of life is like there's a wilderness dimension. Just think of like cornered animal psychology. When the animal is cornered, it doesn't know where to go and it's freaking out. It just goes all out. There's a wilderness that emerges, right? It's like this backup system of like the animal dimension comes out, right? The animal instincts get the driver's seat and the person becomes super strong suddenly. Right, that means we don't realize how much strength this body has, you know. But anyways, individual instances of subjective conscious experience. First of all, this is the hilarious thing. We need a body to have consciousness, but a subject is not an object, so how do we see it? How are people, like where are our thoughts, in quotations, thoughts happening? And what is the difference between memory and visualization? Can someone tell me? Because it is in some sense happening in the same space. The only difference is like looking at the future and looking at the past. It's a linearized filter that creates the relationship of memory and imagination. Memory and visualization. That means those two words are the same event of the brain. It doesn't matter if the person thinks it's abstract or not. The brain is doing something. It's like it's an activity. It's an activity algorithm, you know. So, like it's a pattern, you know, running in the wilderness of the world. So, if you're a friendly person listening to my talk, if you're not being friendly to yourself, you're not being friendly to the advanced civilization. That means a win-win strategy, and advanced civilization has to be advanced from the beginning. That means both self and world are winning. Not world winning, self losing. Not self winning, world losing. People don't realize it, but this is the secret of knowledge. What you love, you instantly know. What you care about, what is important for you, your eyes don't avoid. And I'm saying this, it creates energy. Literally, if a person makes something important, they'll be like, oh my God, how did I have all this energy for this, right? Or people in Black Friday, okay? Like all those people in Black Friday in the store fighting for like, products. It's like, where did that old lady get the strength to pull like a whole TV out of the hand of like a teenager, you know? The power of importance. When something is important for you, the energy, the free will gives you the energy, right? So one can say the more they comprehend their mind, that realistically has to mean the more you are rhythmically riding the waves of your energetic expression. That means 8 billion human beings, you're one of them. If you're being rude to one human being, imagine aliens invaded our planet and they were one human being was like, being discriminated against by aliens. All humanity would be like, yo, there's something off, you know. It's like, so we would retaliate. Right now, you are an individual. That means in the future, it's going to be like, this is going to be the view to depression. That means depression is like not allowed. Let me explain why. Because a person being depressed, as far as society is concerned, the individual is bringing down their own value. But the individual has a value to society regardless of their beliefs on themselves. That's what the advanced civilization acknowledges. Right now, society doesn't care who all these unknown brains dwelling on the planet are. Right? The advanced civilization will. It's easy to be a stranger in the world now. In the future, it's going to be way closer. The minds are going to, trust is going to build like a sort of, imagine if giant trees, if we were living in giant trees, and trust would be all the bridges we create between it. That means one side of the bridge has to be kept from that dimension, another side has to be kept from another dimension, then there's a bridge of understanding. You know, it's like we bridge something. But obsession can make man blind, of course. That's why I'm saying, like, be playful with language. It's a very advanced technology. A person misuses it, can mess up their nature. Not mess up their nature. They can, if they don't realize they're the pilot, they will be ideologically possessed. That means it's not like the person got possessed by, like, I don't know, some interdimensional language. The person got possessed by ideology. Instead of some interdimensional being like interfering, it was an idea of a being that was interfering with the simplicity of the moment before it had complex destiny. And when I say serving the allegiance, well, I was thinking, should I write alliance or allegiance? And I chose allegiance because the mind has an allegiance to your body. That means your mind loves you. That's why your heart keeps beating. But do you love your mind? Or are people trying to get out of their minds, thinking that's spirituality? That means if spirituality means being, you know what it is? It's as if, like, it's a cop-out, you know, renunciation of the physical realm at this moment in history is a cop-out. If there's a world in front of your eyes and the person doesn't care for it, that would be the most hilarious thing. It's as if that was the only thing you had to do. Look through your eyes and care. You know, that's the whole meaning of this whole system. Because if it's alive beyond language, no ideological system knows the future. How can any language, like, it knows the future if it limits us from seeing anything outside of it, right? That means what I sometimes feel, at least religious language, let's say the blind dimensions of religion, it's like the person is not being allowed to leave a house. They're not being allowed to leave a room of how they have to accept the context of the world, not realizing that our updating of the context is based on our experience, right? There was this sentence that I believe it's in the Quran, the Islamic holy book. It was as if only God knows what's in your heart. It's like, what are people doing judging? You know, what are people doing even, you know, discriminating against the land? I'm saying that it's as if when artwork is taken too seriously, you know, it doesn't mean art is bad. It means the artwork should be probably changed or updated, or if religious mentality, because the religious mentality doesn't want to change, so the only solution is we say, okay, religion doesn't have to change. We say religion is like a two-dimensional view. Modern society is a three-dimensional view. That means instead of making a two-dimensional narrative equal to a three-dimensional narrative, we're saying the 2D is in the 3D. The 2D doesn't, in some sense, hasn't opened its eyes to the 3D. So what this means is, from the religious narrative, just like the person has an intelligence to see their own self in the world of this religious narrative, you are also having an ability to see others in this world of narrative. That means it's like violence based on religion is a paradox. And that's the tragedy of what has happened in the outer realms. It's a paradox, because are you being violent to God's creation? Wait a minute, God created the earth, God is moving everything. So if we are being violent to another human being, are we being violent to the creation of God? That means, are we doubting God? That means, is the religious framework doubting God? Is religion a doubt of God? Because if God is in the room moving everything, well, how could man make error? What mistake? You see, it doesn't make sense. It's the same thing of like, where did God make earth? Where is earth right now? Like all those people who are religious, please tell me, where is earth? How do we locate earth? That means man did something in heaven, right? And fell in the religious narrative. Where did he fall to? Earth is still in heaven. And in the secular view, earth is in the heavens. Yeah. So I'm saying it's like when the language games stop trying to fight for truth, truth actually goes into unknown territory, and for the first time, new explorers. New explorers, you know. The future doesn't belong to us, because we wouldn't call it the future. The present belongs to us. Joy is in the present. But if you want to give a gift, you know, let's say somebody wanted to give like a gift to their great-great-great-grandchildren. The only way they could give that gift is by contributing to how the present is being lived now. And, you know, suffering can get boring. And when suffering becomes boring, that's when you realize it makes sense to work with your mind, a sort of teamwork of the ego with the world. And it's active force giver. Because in the inner realms, due to the unconditional nature of being able to animate, that means when somebody says like, imagine imagine a dolphin jumped out of the water, but this dolphin just paused mid-air and for some reason tried everything and couldn't get into the water. It was just hovering mid-air, right? Now, if the audience members could visualize that visualization arose in an instant. So the mind is instant reinventionism endlessly due to every single stimulus. That means if a person is giving a talk and let's say there's a sound that distracts them, that talk is never the same talk after that. You know, it's like our eyes, the moment we move our hands, our eyes are our hands. Like my sight is my body. And so there's a biological embodiment, there's a subjective, instantly vocational embodiment, but in the inner realms, it's so easier. It's super easy to, like meditation in the inner realms is easy. Because it's instantly you realize the unknown witness is there, because the content of the inner realms changes, you know, but in the outer realms it is way more stable. So that means if your mind is a faster film than your body, what it took you a long time to realize in through the dimension of through the perception of your body and through the perception of your mind, it's going to be super instant. right? And when a person gets to that point, you meet the unknown. And what that means is, if your whole life you have been under the impression you are a known creature trying to know more about the unknown, for the first time it's like clicking in, and you're like, no way, the unknown is moving the known. And that is the roar of the advanced civilization. It is not built only by human hands. It is the universe's art project. I'm going to go into a quote tunnel of the concept of friendship, right? And I've kind of established that a person needs to learn to be a friend to their self, a friend to others, and a friend to their world, and ultimately even a friend to that unknown presence of being. And when you're a friend, you're through a geometrical angle purifying your soul from subjective narrative incarnation. So what that means is, when a human being comprehends, the moment you step out of the linguistic simulation, you automatically remember your piloting skills. Your communication, the more it trusts itself alongside the whole universal activity and realizing itself as inseparable, which is like kind of the gem of Advaita. In that non-dualism, it's as if like you are the universe's ability to be a self, not a self trying to be able in a universe. Then you're at least for the inner realms, the energy, it doesn't take energy. So in the inner realms, you can just endlessly have, it's like a valve that's open. Because the unknown is what's moving here. Language has its limits. Like squares can come up with whatever philosophy unless they experience their cubic presence, they will never know they were cubes. You know, nobody knows what it truly means to be a human being. I feel no one can ever know. We can know what it's like attempting it, though. That's one thing a person can do. A person, they say you try and then you fail, but trying is easy, right? Succeeding is hard, let's say, right? But trying should be easy. And let's say a person had this view that when it came to effort, it should be easy, because all understanding is like you look at something complex, and from based on how your inner realms, how your principal universal philosophy, and how your inner realms axioms and like the axis of your inner realms, how you have accepted the world in the inner realms, is seeing something in the outer realms that it can't comprehend. So it has to start from how it sees simplicity in its own dimension and start looking at the phenomena simply. That means the first thing one should do when they see a problem is try to find as many angles they can at looking at that problem. Okay. These are some quotes on, I don't know, about friendship, the concept of friendship. Euripides. One loyal friend is worth 10,000 relatives. Mencius. Friends are the siblings God never gave us. Lucius Annius Seneca. One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. Walter Winchell. A real friend is one who walks in when the rest of the world walks out. Hubert H. Humphrey says the greatest gift of life is friendship, and I have received it. Len Vine says a true friend is someone who is there for you when he'd rather be anywhere else. See, a lot of friendship is based on the cultural notion. William Butler Yeats, there are no strangers here, only friends you haven't yet met. What a quote. That means there's 8 billion unknown comrades on the same battlefield in the space-time continuum. Thomas Aquinas. There's nothing on this earth more to be prized than true friendship. Charles Caleb Colton. True friendship is like sound health. The value of it is seldom known until it is lost. Okay, I'm going to look for just the word friend. I think there's more poetic angles that way. Let's see. Franz Schubert. Happy is the man who finds a true friend, and far happier is he who finds that true friend in his wife. My dear friend, clear your mind of cant. Samuel Johnson. It takes a long time to grow an old friend. John Leonard. Carl Sandburg. The moon is a friend for the lonesome to talk to. Can you imagine? It's like, what are you doing, Carl? Just talking to the moon. Yeah. Ashley Olsen. She's always there for me when I need her. She's my best friend. She's just my everything. Oh yeah, they're the twins. Groucho Marx. Outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. What the... Mitch Hedberg. My friend asked me if I wanted a frozen banana. I said no, but I want a regular banana later. So yeah. Francois de la Rochefoucauld says, a true friend is the greatest of all blessings, and that which we take the least care of all to acquire. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The only way to have a friend is to be one. And think of the same sentence. It's such a great sentence. The only way to have a friend is to be one. Now think of it this way. The only way to use your mind is to be one. Like the only way to have your mind's ally is to be your mind's ally. I don't know how to say this. But this sentence structure Ralph Waldo Emerson has is incredible. That means it's kind of like you can use it for everything. The only way to truth is to be truth, you know? It's like... Car Otis. I am a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother. I am a friend of women and their advocate. John Cena. When people show loyalty to you, you take care of those who are with you. It's how it goes with everything. If you have a small circle of friends and one of those friends doesn't stay loyal to you, they don't stay your friend for very long. Yeah, because it's all about the inner realms. You know, it's like inner realm advancement. When people realize the world is too unknown than known, then it becomes like less expectation on what it has to be, more like, okay, let's see how it happens, you know. Harry S. Truman says, you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. Tough times. Plutarch says, I don't need a friend who changes when I change and who nods when I nod. My shadow does that much better. Wow. Lawrence J. Peter. You can always tell a real friend when you've made a fool of yourself. He doesn't feel you've done a permanent job. Okay, I gotta share these quotes here. Guys, I've shared the link there too. People can see what I'm reading, where I'm reading from. Ene Nin. Each friend represents a world in us, a world not born until they arrive, and it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. Each friend represents a world in us, a world not born until they arrive, and it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. I'm telling you guys, all these quotes are saying the same thing. Trust the unknown. Because then you see what it is, you know, it's nonsense. And ultimately, where the attention goes, a person sees new dimensions eventually. And, you know, a person can't concentrate on something and not see something else about it. The more attention is single pointed, the more all your inner realms are being just going through one point, through one image. Or one let's say, focal point. Edward Young. Read nature. Nature is a friend to truth. Jennifer Aniston. Where would you be without friends, the people to pick you up when you need lifting? We come from homes far from perfect, so you end up almost parent and sibling to your friends, your own chosen family. There's nothing like a really loyal, dependable, good friend, nothing. Now imagine there's nothing like a really loyal, dependable, advanced civilization, you know, advanced species, you know, there's nothing like it. Lao Tzu says health is the greatest possession. Contentment is the greatest treasure. Confidence is the greatest friend. Non-being is the greatest joy. Robert Louis Stevenson. A friend is a gift you give yourself. Bernard Meltzer. A true friend is someone who thinks that you're a good egg even though he knows that you're slightly cracked. Paula Abdul says everyone is your best friend when you're successful. Make sure that the people that you surround yourself with are also the people that you're not afraid of failing with. James Russell Lavo. As life runs on, the road grows strange, with faces new and near the end. The milestones into headstones change, neath everyone a friend. Erin Lauder, my mom has always been kind of my backbone. She keeps me strong. She's a mother, a friend. She is really everything to me. Leo Buscaglion says, a single rose can be my guard. A single rose can be my garden. A single friend, my world. Albert Hubbard, a friend is one who knows you and loves you just the same. Helen Keller, walking with a friend in the dark is better than walking alone in the light. Doris Lessing, trust no friend without faults, and love a woman but no angel. Chanakya, treat your kid like a darling for the first 5 years. For the next 5 years, scold them. By the time they turn 16, treat them like a friend. Your grown-up children are your best friends. Who knew there was all this wisdom lying around in just, a webpage? I feel there needs to be like a quote revolution in cyberspace. Like I've tried that, Chris Carr. If you don't think your anxiety, depression, sadness, and stress impact your physical health, think again. All of these emotions trigger chemical reactions in your body, which can lead to inflammation and a weakened immune system. Learn how to cope, sweet friend. There will always be dark days. And then there will be sunny ones, always too, same sentence. Ralph Waldo Emerson says a friend may well be reckoned the masterpiece of nature. Bob Dylan, chaos is a friend of mine. William Blake, it is easier to forgive an enemy than to forgive a friend. Wow, that's so true. Boris Karloff says, why? Because you care for the friend, you don't care for the enemy. Boris Karloff says, the monster was the best friend I ever had. Oh my god, where are these codes going? Excuse me. Martin Luther King Jr. Love is the only excuse me. Where was I? Actually, I'll okay, so Martin Luther King Jr. says love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Plato says nothing but heaven itself is better than a friend who is really a friend. Frank Crane says a friend is someone with whom you dare to be yourself. Isaac Newton, Plato is my friend, Aristotle is my friend, but my greatest friend is truth. Kurt Vonnegut, I don't know how to pronounce that, and he says if people think nature is their friend, then they sure don't need an enemy. William Penn, a true friend freely advises, justly assists, readily adventures, boldly takes all, patiently defends, courageously, and continues a friend unchangeably. Yeah, I mean, that's like advanced. My view is that anything a person does in life, they can see so many steps ahead that how they're interpreting what they're seeing changes, simplifies. Eunice Emery, a heart makes a good home for the friend. Anyways, I would like to actually end off. Something's come up, guys. Be your own friend in this life, and as you serve your mind begins serving you, and the soul's life is the acceptance of it's the actualization of its potential. All is well when the universe is. Namaste.